by a Serbian mafia. Well, so what difference does it make? She was executed on her doorstep.
Well, here's another point, John, that you mentioned in the first show, which I found really hard to believe, because there was something interesting about the way the ambulance crews responded to this in Joe Dando's case, right? Usually something happens, an ambulance will turn up, but you were saying there was reports of dozens of ambulance crews and no control over where the evidence was, and people were just trampling all over everything. And clearly that seems to be by design, right?
Yeah, it just confused everything, hasn't it? It's the initial response, which is very vital. That's the main evidence gathering opportunity. Yeah. They call it the golden hour, where the police get most of their evidence. They sort of start really putting the foundations of an investigation down. And it was messed up. It was messed up. It was frustrated. It was, so there was a conspiracy. Well, of course there was. There's a lot to lose here. And if we look at Savile, say, for example, Savile was an intelligence asset. Say Savile was an informant for the intelligence services, and he was there to procure young kids to apply foreign dignitaries or industrial espionage. I mean, I did a bit of contract work for a security firm that was run by ex-special forces guys. I worked with one fella. He introduced me to these people, and when I was in a lot of financial difficulty, they sponsored me to do some bits and pieces for them. And I was really, really impressed with them. They were highly professional and all that. But the guy who ran the outfit, he did a thing called industrial espionage, and it was mainly surveillance. And he said we follow around a target that comes into the country, and the last one was an oil oligarch, and the rival company wanted us to get some dirt on him. So we followed him around and we tried to compromise him with a prostitute. And it sounds James Bond, but this is what these guys were paid to do. That was their job. And I did a couple of days surveillance with them, and they were bang on the button. They were highly professional. But he said, it's a dirty business. It's a dirty game, and we're the ones used to do it. So it does go on. I know it goes on.
What do you think of this headline here? Facial mapping puts Serbian assassin in frame of First Star's murder 25 years ago. Have you seen this image? Look at this. This is some filmed on a potato madness. So apparently this face here is this face here, right? Yeah. And like, where did they get this from? Is this some sort of like Tinder profile for Serbian assassins?
Right. So okay, so this is the face of the killer, right? And they're convinced it is. So why did they go and arrest some bloke who's borderline Downs, right, and was mentally retarded? So why did they do him? And those that did stitch this guy up, what happened to them? What happened to the senior investigating team for the Dando inquiry? What happened to them? Nothing. Nothing happened to them. And it's the same as if you watch the documentary that was done on Colin Stagg, the Rachel Nickel murder. You watch the senior officer for that operation with the Met Police. He turns around after the court case in which Stagg is acquitted, and he said, well, it makes no difference to us. We will never investigate another person for it. We know he did it, right? He didn't do it. Yet this officer, I think he was a detective chief inspector, he went and got his pension. I bet he didn't get hauled over the coals. But his attitude, if he is the pinnacle of professionalism and experience for the Met Police, well, no one stands a chance. I don't even think they can even nick themselves shaving, with this guy as a shining light, because he was clearly wrong in the light of information, right, that Robert Napper had already made moves to the police saying that he had done it. And he'd done an identical murder with a woman of Jacqueline Blissett. Yet this guy is stating no. And they adjunct provocateured Colin Stagg. They did it. And what happened to them guys? Nothing. And it's the same with the Diana inquiry. Like I keep saying, I knew a guy that was very, very sort of senior in the Dano inquiry, and he said anyone who thinks it's an accident is an effing idiot.
Yeah, but John, don't worry. 26 years later, they found an eyewitness. New Jill Dando murder revelations as fresh witness identifies notorious hitman.
Yeah, how's that happened then? What was it?
Where's they been mulling about? I mean, make that make sense to me. Just make that make sense to me, please, John.
Well, I don't know. I mean, how have they gone about that? Why is someone 26 years later? I mean, the continuity is off. The problems of the intelligence won't be there.
I mean, that's a hell of a brain buffer, John. We all have moments where we're in the middle of a sentence and our brain just deletes what we're saying, right?
Do you know,
26-year brain buffer seems a bit much.
What people fail to pencil in are the use of informants, right? And there's a thing in an investigation called primary and secondary disclosure, right? This is information that the police hold that can either undermine the prosecution case or it can assist the defense, right? And it's either sensitive or it's non-sensitive. Now, if you've got sensitive information which can damage the prosecution case and it can assist the defense, the police have to hand it over unless certain criteria is matched. And one of them could be an informant. And also there could be intelligence on Jill Dando that she had come to notice, or she had supplied information in the past about things, and they have withheld this for national security, or for there's a whole plethora of reasons they can legitimately use to withhold that information. So what is needed is an investigation, a new investigation, a Home Office investigation, Lewis, and get hold of that disclosure that is caught around this, if it still exists, because it may well have been burned, it may well have been shredded, but sensitive information goes onto a computer system, right? Goes onto an intelligence system, but that in itself is tiered, right? So you've got the low-level copper can put on intel, say Mr. Smith at number 26 is dealing drugs, right? And anyone can access that and see it, right? But if Mr. Smith is part of the intelligence service, or he's working for some national crime, organised crime operation, okay, it then goes up a level. So it then gets blocked from certain people. Only those on organised crime investigations can look at it. And then it might be that it's even more sensitive, and there's information that these different organised crime investigation units are leaking intel to each other and back to gangsters. So it gets narrowed down that only a certain section of that, and it gets narrower and narrower and narrower, right? Mm-hmm. And then when it gets to some of the stuff that I used to deal with, I used to go to an intelligence meeting and say, look, I've got this intel and so, right? What do you want me to do with it? And because it involved police officers and PDF files, I was told I had to hand write it. Okay, hand write it, and then I had to hand it over to the senior officer. Well, what happened to that information? Well, it got shredded, and I was told on no circumstance is it ever to go onto the system because it's too sensitive, right? And it's open to corruption. And I would hand it to the senior officer that I believe was part of it, and it never saw light of day. It just got shredded, and that's what I believe happened anyway. You know, so. This is how they control it. But what they can't control is people like myself and Maggie and Lenny Harper and Mike Veal, years later, stand up saying, look, they're covering it up. And they've always covered it up. But
100%, John. And do you think they've just gotten smarter? I personally feel like there's been a downgrade in those who come to the police force. It seems like they're handpicking the yes men over the free thinkers, and it's a scary concept. Oh, you've muted yourself.
Sorry, someone called and it
that's all right.
It blocked it out. We need people to be speaking out now, but of course they then put clauses on the detectives and the officers that they're not allowed to say anything, and they will be subject to discipline if they leak this information. And then you've got contempt court issues and stuff like that, which ever stop it ever getting out. I just think that you know, there is so much stigma around and question marks around this case that it needs to be reinvestigated.